Good afternoon, and thank you very much for organizing this amazing symposium. I hope you are not so tired after a so long day. And I will start my presentation. I will bring all of you into this situation that is touching everyone and talking about not really only refugees, but in general displaced people. And let me move. As we already mentioned this morning, we move for different reasons, and nowadays there are more struggling problems related with climate change and war that force people to move. And these are some of the data that I brought from the UNHCR source. And from 2015 to 2017, the number of people that are forced to move increased 3 million. That is really a huge number. And I will present today a research that I started when I moved from Italy to Lebanon 6 years ago. And it was just when the Syrian crisis started. And then I was there and I saw all the increasing of the problematic. And I'm part of this migration because also I left my country and I went in another country to have a better position, to have a better quality of life for me and for my family. Then I was, let's say, emotionally really trapped by all the crises that Lebanon was forced to face. And then I focused on this issue for different reasons. One, obviously, is related with the emotion and with the fact that I'm a human being. And the other one, because I started questioning myself, what can I do as a landscape architect to give something and to address this issue? And then I say that maybe there are some liminal paths between humanitarian design. I'm not sure about really this issue, but for sure, right to shared landscapes and well-being of communities. I focused my research specifically on the Mediterranean area because it's over there, because I know, first of all, the area, and second, because it's the part of the world in which in the past, let's say, 6 years, the majority of movement happened. And I will show you some of the, this is really recent, 2018, how this migration trend is changing with a decrease or increase of number of people moving. And while moving, these people are changing our territory, are forming, are shaping our land, not only from the economical, social, political, and religious component, but especially in terms of space. And then these are some of the countries that are interested by this new and strong form of migration, and new Mediterranean landscape are coming up. And these are some of the pictures that I took it from Google of the new type of urban-rural landscape that are coming up. And they are a little bit different from the images that you showed before about the new cities in Africa, because these are obviously also governmental new form of cities, but they say that they are informal and they are temporary. They will become, for sure, new cities. And then I was questioning myself while continuing my research, what's the new form of, the new meaning of citizenship in this context? And I mean not only for the people that are moving, but also for the people that are hosting this new community, and how maybe there is a need of questioning again the meaning of citizenship in this situation all of us are facing today. And why? Because also there is this important document that talk about human rights, and the Article 25, it states that everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family. And we know it exists, but maybe we forget about it. Then there are some questions that are leading my research. And one is, as I mentioned before, which is our role as a landscape architect in harmonizing and coordinating the different needs and rights. And the other one, it's how this, investigating how this movement is shaping, it's forming, creating a new form of shared landscapes. Then I will go to some numbers. Since the start of the war in Syria in 2011, the number of people that move, it's really incredible. And focusing on Lebanon, where I live, Lebanon is hosting legally 1.2 million Syrian refugees. These are the number related to people that are legally registered. But in reality, the number is really elevated. And Lebanon is one of the countries, if you look at this graph, in which the number of refugees per capita is 1 in 4. Where they live, there are two different forms of settlement, informal settlements. They are localized and dispersed and scattered all over Lebanon, but specifically in the agricultural land, with informal tented settlement that are not legal camps, because Lebanon refused to organize and to give UNHCR the possibility to create camps. And there are the ones living in unfinished buildings, in garage, and let's say that the lucky one in proper residential building. And these are some of the images of the localization of the informal tented settlement. You see 3 different maps, because the first one is 2016, the other 2 in 2018, and you see that only looking differently at the same phenomena, the type of info looks different on the maps. And how they look like, where are they localized? They are nearby the existing rural structures, and they are creating, but already these rural structures, they were marginalized, and they are creating at the margin of the margin other cluster of urbanity. And they are organized in a way that borders and ages are the most struggling component for different reasons. There are cultural, geographical, topographical borders. And my research specifically on the informal tented settlement was located in the Bekaa, Baalbek, and El Hermel governorate, because it's over there that the majority of the informal settlement are located. These are some of the studies that I did in 2 specific municipalities. And I also investigated a different typology of informal scape, the linear one, with the different type of borders, the compact and informal tented settlement, and the scattered informal tented settlement. And the phenomenon is changing, it's evolving, sometimes the number of people living in informal settlement is increasing, sometimes decreasing. It depends on the possibility of living, but also on the fact that there are a lot of eviction. And then they move, they are forced to move. But in this movement, they are changing the land use and they are transforming the landscape. And at the same time, there are a lot of border-scape practices in act. And in most of the case, these border-scape practices are related to protection and to demarcation in order to define the different typology of space and to create safe space. And all of this is creating also a kind of new form of landscape in which plastic, concrete, wooden structures, wires are reshaping the landscape. And all of this, we have something that is really interesting, and this blooming of all of this small garden in front of the tents, where the Syrians are trying to reorganize and to reshape the landscape of their country, revising their memories of their place. And specifically, I focused on this informal tent and settlement, in which also we did a workshop to organize, to do some public space. And through observation, interpretation, interaction, we were able to do investigation over there. We looked at the different typology of the borders outside the camps, the borders inside, and the differentiation between the private versus communal versus public, depending of the different situation, based on trying to define identity and trying also to reshape the family compound, and to demarcate also the sense of belonging that we discussed today different time. And there are a lot of systems of science that are in place, and they are similar, but there are a lot of differentiation while thinking and investigating a little bit more. And there are a lot of obstacles in order to sign that you cannot enter. And then, which kind of landscape architecture, because this is what we are discussing today, also we can propose in this situation of indeterminacy. And I was trying also to compare the situation between the informal tent settlement and the settling in urban context, where they are in substandard buildings or in residential buildings. There are similarities, but also a lot of differentiation. The majority, in reality, of Syrians displaced live in urban context. There are numbers that are always different. These are numbers that I took it from UNHCR in March 2018 and June 2018. And you can see that the numbers are totally different. In March, 71% used to live in residential building, while in June, 54%, because they are forced to move. But the majority of these residential conditions are really poor. And the 10% of the people of this place live in non-residential buildings. And these are the situations that you can see spread all over Lebanon. And Lebanon is really small. I used to compare with my region, with Sicily. It's less than half of Sicily. Then you can imagine how small it is. And then I try to investigate one situation in an urban context, and there is this building in Saida that was built as a religious school, a religious university. It's really at the entrance of the city. And it was converted, totally converted in, let's say, informal city, where there are in between 120 and 175 families living, and then approximately 900 to 1,500 residents. Then it's really, yes, it's really a city. And which are the conditions? Obviously, they are living in a better condition than the one in an informal tented settlement, because they have a school, they have a playground, they have a mosque, but inside, if you look inside, there are lacks of infrastructures, there is no water, electricity, sanitation facilities, nothing. And what is also interesting is that they are putting in place a similar form or spatial practice to define, to recreate home, and to demarcate, appropriate, and create form of protection. And these are some of the things that you can find all over in these buildings. There are this form of protection that they are permanent sign of appropriation of the space. And what is more important is that the investigation on this different form of informal settling are for me important, because I looked more, yes, I look at the space as a landscape architect, but I try to focus on the human action as a significant component of a site and shaper of the ordinary everyday life. And these are the other form of spatial practice in this building. And I want to conclude with this, considering, because we discussed a little bit about culture, but I strongly believe that while discussing about refugees and migration, culture play an important role. And most of the time, the fact that there is all of this hostility, yes, it's based on governmental, economical issue, but it's also based on the fact that there is a misunderstanding and a lack of knowledge in different culture. And culture is important while talking about landscape and migration, because landscape knowledge is transport, and new cultural landscape are created in new spaces. And because I'm the part of IFLA and I'm the chair of the Landscape Architect Without Borders group under IFLA, I want to finish with this image, because I believe that as landscape architect, we really give a huge contribution to the crisis that we are facing. And migration will never stop. It's part of the humanity. We are all part of this migratory flux, and as landscape architect, we can make a change. Then, thank you very much.